keep going right down the
Just
line
keep
here.
going right down the
Yeah.
line.
Hopefully I don't mess this thing up.
Does
Hopefully
anybody
you
have
guys-
any questions so far for Deana?
That's a good point.
And Jessica, before we move on to Cynthia?
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
you have the floor is yours.
Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna talk a little bit about just sort of kind of what I think is 3 key points for careers in general, and it can apply to women specifically, but I think it's just in general, and we can all take it kind of how we need to. So I would say probably for me, the key points have been hungry, you need to be smart, and then you need to be humble. So those are kind of your key 3 points, and I think there's different parts of your career when you use those and when they're combined. So for me, started in credit unions in 1997. I've been in the industry 26 years. It's pretty much the only one I've been in, so I'm looking forward to whatever that other one. I think in this.
I know once you find it, you're there.
I think at this.
Took me a little longer.
Yeah, I think at this point I'm kind of stuck. Not stuck, but like in the in credit unions, right? I have that moment sometimes where I've had the moment, I should say, several times where I'm like, should I go to something else? Should I try something else? And I'm always go back to people helping people, why we do what we do, helping the members, helping the employees. So my role at the credit union is EVP, COO, Chief Operations Officer, Executive Vice President at Connect Credit Union, which is where you are today, in case you didn't know. I was at a previous credit union 16 and a half years, and I've been at Connect for 9. So every position that I've had, except for my very first position that I took at the beginning of my career and my first position that I took here at Connect, I've created. So I challenge you to be a champion of your own career. None of the titles that I've had, if titles are important to you, sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. I don't know how to better explain that, but sometimes I've been like, oh my gosh, I have to be this title. And other times I'm like, I don't care, pay me this, and I'm happy with whatever, right? Like, and what you're doing empowers you to do that, and you're not so worried about the title per se. So I've been the champion of my own career. So really pretty much at the beginning, I'd say is hungry, right? You have to look for the information, find out what it is that you don't know, look for additional responsibilities. There's probably very few times that I don't go to my boss, even today, that I didn't ask, even then to now, what can I do to help? If I've finished what I'm responsible for, asking your supervisor what you can do to help them is incredibly supportive, obviously, to help them. But it helps you move along, and it shows them that you're able to do what you've been assigned, and additionally are looking for additional responsibility. That's one of the key points, I think, of being able to move up, is being able to handle your workload. And we've talked about balance today. Sometimes we can. I often find if you kind of take faith, family, work in separate circles, I'm always struggling in one of those circles. They're not all, like, it's not a juggler where you're able to kind of go with all of them at the same time. Early on in my career, I think my finances were crap. Like, I didn't know anything about like what we know today, right? And if you work in a credit union, I think all of us can say that our finances have been improved by understanding something, by how we work, right? My credit score wasn't very good when I started. I think I had a roommate that left like some cable box somewhere, and I had to pay for that. I didn't even know that was on my credit report. Like, the HR person was like, well, your credit's not very good. And I'm like, my credit? What is she talking about? Like, I didn't even know that part of it. That's how much I didn't know when I started at credit unions. So I built that, right? You build that knowledge. So that's being hungry. I think that whole section, honestly, almost the whole 16 years really at the previous credit union is just gaining that knowledge, being hungry, looking for additional responsibility. Obviously you want to be, if there's something available, what are you missing? What do you need to fill in that gap for that role, right? Because we don't always have every aspect of what we need. Sometimes you can fill that in after you have the position, but sometimes in certain roles you need that information to be able to take that position on from the get-go, right? So managing people, I highly recommend. Go to courses, learn, right? Very early on, I was managing people, and I think that helped also propel me because I very early on was able to manage people and a large group of people well to a goal, right, to achieve X, and people saw that. And once you can do that in one place, you're really almost replicating that, hopefully, as you gain knowledge, right, learn more, do better, in different locations. So that's tremendously helpful. treat individuals. I think one of the aspects of managing is finding out all the individual people and how they function, right? How do they like to be? I tend to have the ideas. I tend to be the talker, right? I know me, right? How is, say, Jessica, not picking on Jessica. Jessica's gonna be a little bit more quiet than me, but Jessica's gonna have like specific steps on how to do something. I have another employee maybe that's gonna be the butterfly, which I call, they love to go to every desk and talk to everyone, and they just wanna be everywhere, right? Does that sound anything like you, Amy? No.
I know what you're talking about.
So I think one of those things, the key things, is figuring out who you are and who those other people are. Knowing yourself is like the best thing you can do, right? If you have to go take a Myers-Briggs or you have to go take a DISC personality test or something, knowing you is the best, right? Because if you know that you need facts, if you're the type of person, CEOs, VPs, you need facts, right? You need facts to make a decision. When that employee comes in and they have none of those facts, that meeting's not gonna go well, right? So how can that employee prepare to have a better meeting with you? How can you prepare to have a better meeting with that employee? And that continue that relationship. I do one-on-ones with all my employees on a quarterly basis. It sometimes can be challenging. COVID was a little bit hard. During COVID, we were all in the office. So we had a little opposite experience than most everyone had. We were going into work. As many of you know, my husband also works at a credit union. So we're 12 years into our marriage. I can tell you we really don't talk about work a lot at home. So that kind of has been off the table pretty much almost the whole career. Right when I started, we're kind of experts in our own like areas. And when I came to Connect, that probably maybe picked up a little bit because there was things I didn't know. But now again, we're kind of in our own little zones of what we do. 2 system conversions. Obviously like way back, like right, Y2K, all kinds of projects and things entering, adding new products, adding new services, name changes, 5 different website changes, like just all of those things are always gonna be things you're gonna have at your credit union, hopefully as you continue to grow and learn. And being on those teams is great. Like if it was a team that I didn't know anything about, I was always kind of the one volunteering to be on that project, to be on the team. So that's a lot of hungry, I think, is finding out the information you don't know, being hungry for additional responsibility. And then you move into, I think, is smart. How do I get smarter at what I do? So I think that the personality types, looking at the different people, treating everyone individually is really important. And then realizing your gaps, right? So I had always worked in operations side, especially technology, online banking, bill pay, websites, marketing. I knew a lot about those areas. I didn't know as much about accounting and spreadsheets and call reports and some of those areas. And I think that was like a gap for me when I was looking, okay, how do I, if I want to be a CEO or I want to get to X, how do I get there? What are the gaps in my resume or my knowledge? And that's the smarter side. So I think I'll spend a lot of time when I came to Connect, I moved into an operations role, more focused solely on operations. And luckily, during that time, we also did a system conversion. I know many of you are going through system conversions. I'm looking at all the wheat people, all the tropical people. They're like in April, you guys are in October. Trust me, I hear about that quite a bit. It's stressful. That whole time is stressful, and if it hasn't gotten stressful for you, it will be, right? But you learn so much during that time. Step up, take the opportunity to learn what you can about that new system so you have that additional knowledge. So I think there was a lot of our team that did do that, and they know so much more than some of the other employees because they took that time to learn additional things within those system conversions. It's hard to, I think, what you were saying, 40 years you've been on the system? I was on a system for 20-something years before we switched. It's hard to get rid of that stuff. I was telling Scott, which many of you know, the CEO of Connect, I was like, I wish I could just take all that knowledge and like boot it out so I could put more other stuff in, right? Because there's so much knowledge of what you have of those systems, and then you just learn something else, and like that's now what you're gonna know unless you go back to that. So that smart part. During one of those time periods, I did the CUNA Management School program. I highly recommend that program. It's in Madison, Wisconsin. There's regional ones. The regional ones are great, but they don't provide you the certification. So the Credit Union Management Program, it's a 3-year program. You go every year to Madison. and you get your certification, a certified credit union executive certification. For me, that was an amazing next step of learning and filling in some of that gap, because it provided me the broader scope of what I needed to be able to move into more financial type roles, obviously, and then the networking. So obviously we have this group here. I mean, we've, talked to each other regularly, I think. I mean, if I had an issue, I know there's lots of people that I can call. I see several of them in the audience here that I would be like, hey, I need help with this, whether it's professionally or personally. But that group, for me, in any of those courses that you take, or a school that you go to, or even a webinar, even if it's virtual, get the contact. Go on LinkedIn, get their information, find out who they are. I became a group of, we were 110 in our group that ended up actually graduating. I think we were one of the largest human management classes that they had at that time. And it was right before COVID, so I felt bad for the people that had the next year, because it got tougher and tougher with COVID. But so we were the last ones that graduated with COVID. So now I have 110 built-in kind of advisors that I can go to that are in peer industry, people that I can talk to about different things. So we have a Facebook group. I encourage that, if I know we have the chapter group, I mean, there's reach out, LinkedIn me, and you can send private messages or things like that, and ask questions, because I think that's one of the things, especially not being in the area, it's nice to be able to ask a credit union in another area kind of some things too, right? So we all compete, but we're not like competitors, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that smart part of it, what am I missing and what do I need? So continue that. And then I think the last part, and I think this, I feel like sort of the direction, it's always there, but I think it's important, kind of is the humble part of it. Enjoy your accomplishments, continue to look for those types of things, but then help other people along. And I think that's in that humble part, is sort of, what can I do to help other people along? They have to want it, right? I'm not gonna force anything on anyone that doesn't wanna move up or do something else, but the humble part, I think, is getting that next group of people to go forward and let them be the next credit union leaders, right? I think I feel like we're still moving into that role, because there's a lot of people retiring, leaving credit union industry, that I think provides us with this experience a lot of opportunity, which is why I wanna be ready. But I think there's a lot of opportunity to help other people move ahead as well. So I think that last part of it, in the community, I've always volunteered. I was actually, probably that's a great story too. I was actually over-involved. I don't know if any of you have done that either. I was in too many groups and too many boards and too many things, to a point where I was like, this isn't even fun anymore. And it was stuff I loved. It wasn't stuff that I didn't like. I went to University of Miami, so I'm a huge Hurricanes fan. I go to all the football games. Probably, if you know me at all, I'm a huge UM fan. I was doing United Way. I was doing, I'm trying to think of all the different groups. Volunteering here and there in a couple different places, and it was just too much. So I actually stopped everything as my role ended, or your term. Sometimes if you're on a board or whatever, my term ended. I actually stopped everything for a little bit. I don't know. You look at things and you look back and go, was that meant to be? And maybe kind of it was. My mom passed away during that time, or right after. But then I found Jerry. Ooh. And so I've been, I'm gonna take a deep breath.
Take a breath.
Take a drink of water.
I'm gonna say something while she's pausing, when we're talking about helping each other. So I've been working for credit unions for 28 years. I've worked at 3 different credit unions. This is my second career. My first career was retail management. As Amy, with hours, when you're in retail, I mean, it wasn't like it is now with, Black Friday and this and that, but regardless, it's a lot of long days, a lot of long hours, weekends, holidays, and I had a young child as well. And I met my significant other, and I said, I can't do this retail business anymore. I missed everything in his first 5 years, literally missed everything in his first 5 years. My mom potty trained him. Yeah. So his babysitter spoke Spanish, and his first words were in Spanish. Yeah. I'm just saying, this is what happens. So I was feeling a lot of mommy guilt at that time, and I just wanted something that was Monday through Friday. If I had to work a Saturday, all right. And I went to Kelly Services, and they plopped me into a 2-week part-time answer the phones at a credit union in Hollywood. which is now Sun Credit Union. 2 weeks turned into 12 years. And then I made my way through. They didn't have marketing, they didn't have any plan, they didn't this, they didn't that. So I kind of made everything available through my sales experience to be able to create a marketing department, to create this now VP of marketing at Broward Healthcare Credit Union. But again, 28 years it's been in the making. But along the way, I have met women like Amy, women like Cynthia. I've just recently met Jessica. I've known Deana over at her credit union for a number of years. And you know, at a smaller credit union like mine, we do everything. The marketing person isn't just the marketing person. We don't buy the gifts and give out pretty things and make posters. Right now, I'm launching Zelle. Like a big part of that is marketing, but there's a lot of other components to that product that, you know, isn't marketing. GLs, did Dan's calling me, did that work? I go, I don't know. So, you know, I mean, these are like the conversations that I have, but I know that if I have a problem, I have reached out to Amy so many times. Okay, what about this? What about that? Can we meet? Can we do this? And she's always been there to answer the email, regardless of what's happening in her life, personal or professional. During one of our going to Meridian Link, I would ask Dan a question. He's like, "Can you call Cynthia? Like she doesn't have another job." Okay, so I would reach out to Cynthia, and she would just like give me this email that was telling me step by step by step, and if you do this, this, and this, and today I feel like I'm a pro at those deposit accounts in Meridian Link, and now people are asking me questions. Again, remember, marketing. I just need to, you know, get the people online to do it. You guys need to take care of the rest of the business. But this is my support group right here. I have my other support, professional and personal. You know, Stephanie became one of my best friends through work. And we talk about different things, work stresses, family stresses. I don't even want to talk about the stuff that I went through. I have 2 daughters that were, we'll say, rape survivors. I have one of my daughters went through an entire, right, Cynthia, you might have to take over.
Tag team.
Yeah, during COVID. My youngest daughter had to overcome heroin addiction and alcoholism with, you know, a guy that she met. So we spent 3 years of her in and out of rehab and working from home. I fortunately was able to work from home during most of COVID, but you know, my husband works from home every single day. So now he's like, oh, she's here. You know, he's not used to me being at home. I'm not used to being at home with him. And then we have this stress of, you know, our youngest daughter battling her issues. Oh, and I forgot to mention that my middle daughter decided to pack up and move to LA in the middle of COVID. So that was no job. So that was fun. But here we are, everybody's successful, everybody's good. I will say my daughter is sober 8 months, and and lots of therapy, and for both of them to get over their violence situations as well. So I just want you guys to know that we are all battling something.
Yeah, right.
And while we are feeling very safe in expressing that information to you guys here today, it is still part of us, and we try to be present all of the time. And when you ask, so how's your day? It's great. You know, I'm doing good. But really, find your group, and when you're not doing good, tell them you're not doing good, because it's important to know how you can help them, because you never know what really is good and what isn't. And find your support person at work or at home. Just find it. All right, are you good now, girl?
Yeah. Good for a bit.
I have to say, ironically too, while you were talking about how we all lean on each other, I got a text from Dustin and Bryce started asking me a question.
Yeah. I think that understanding, even your employees, right? So if you do have employees that report to you, employees that you work with that don't report to you in other areas, everybody's walking through something, right? So I think that's an important, I know I do get, there's some people that say, oh, how are you doing? I actually genuinely mean it. I actually stop. I look at you in the eye when I say how you're doing. I think that matters, as opposed to just like kind of the how you doing. But I think the other thing, there's a couple, oh, peachy. And you know that it's just like sarcasm, right? You know that that's not real. So I kind of try to delve into, if I know the person, how are you doing? To really get a genuine answer, right? So you want to know, how are you doing? And if you're looking at them and you're stopping and you're actually taking that moment to like take a deep breath and say, how you doing? And they're like, oh, I'm okay. And you go, okay, is there any, and especially as their manager, is there anything I could do? Is it something you're working on? And I think that second that you take to really ask the question versus sort of a passing question, I think is important as well. I'll just add in, I think, for career-wise too, Amy's very humble, but she's on the CUNA board executive council for the marketing group. I'm on the CUNA executive council for the operations and member experience group. We do that also in addition to our jobs, which that's another side thing. So if you want to be more involved in the industry, I think that's another way. That's a whole nother group that I'm sure Amy leans on. I know that's a whole nother group I can lean on, again, with questions or personal things. Some of those people have become, in a couple years, also confidants, and to be able to go to them and talk to them about different things, credit union or non-credit union related as well. And I think that's important. I think I find during COVID, I think I struggled because I was going in and we weren't at home, and I was just like, what do we do? Like, we're going in, nothing's changed. All these people, like, everyone's talking about their whole life changing. I think they say you need to have like 5 hobbies, right? One that makes you learn, one that makes you income, one that you just enjoy. Trying to think of the others. I was trying to find the graphic and I wasn't able to find it. I started cookie decorating during the pandemic. I'd always made cookies, but I never really decorated them. I am not that creative. People are like, oh, you're so creative. I'm like, no, not really. And it was just something that I started doing, and that was like, ended up being some of my outlet, right? It wasn't my only outlet. Exercise for me is a huge outlet. You might not tell, but I've been better at it and not as good as I should have been. But I think for me, those are sort of my outlets. My husband and I go and do things together, so that's sort of my other outlet with that. So I think you do need to find like what is happy for you. I think self-care is important. I bought these little masks that you put on that have the eye holes and the mouth holes, and it's just like you sit there for 30 minutes and then you take it off, like even things like that. Find something that just makes you feel that much better. Those, I don't know what it is, those make me feel so good. I think it's just maybe sitting there for 30 minutes, like, and not really, because you can't like read or look at your phone while you're doing that with like on your face and stuff. So find something that you can do that makes you feel better, even if it's just 5-10 minutes. I know some people write in gratitude journals, starting the day or ending the day or both. I know sometimes, honestly, I'll go, Jessica does it, I do it, we go outside and we go for a walk right here around the building just for 10 minutes. I know my thing buzzes at me to like go walk or stand up or go do stuff. So I think that's really important also. Even it doesn't have to be marathons and stuff like that to get, steps in or something like that. So just going for like a 10-minute walk. And just ending, I think, reach out to people. We're here for you. I think use your community, the credit union community for that. And, make your own way. Be humble, be strong, be hungry, and you'll find your way.
Great, thank you, Cynthia.